The fluorescent lights of Nordstrom buzzed overhead as Emma Torres pushed her cleaning cart through the luxury department store in downtown Chicago. It was 6 a.m., 2 hours before the store opened, and she moved quickly between the racks of designer clothes, her reflection barely visible in the polished marble floors she had just mopped. Emma was 32 but looked older. The kind of tired that sleep couldn't fix had settled into her bones over the past 3 years. Her dark hair was pulled back in a tight ponytail, and her janitor's uniform hung loosely on her thin frame. She hadn't eaten dinner the night before, saving the leftover pasta for her daughter Lily's lunchbox instead. Through the store windows, she could see Michigan Avenue coming to life. Businessmen in tailored suits hurried past with coffee cups. Women in heels that cost more than Emma's monthly rent clicked by without a second glance at the people who made their world shine. Emma's phone buzzed in her pocket. A text from Mrs. Chun, her neighbor who watched Lily before school. Lily has a fever. 101.2. She's asking for you. Emma's chest tightened. She couldn't leave work. Not again. Mr. Harrison, the store manager, had already warned her last month after she'd missed 2 shifts when Lily had the flu. "One more absence and you're done," he'd said, not even looking up from his computer. She typed back quickly. "Give her the children's Tylenol in the bathroom cabinet. I'll be home by 2 p.m. Tell her mommy loves her." The guilt was a familiar weight. It sat right next to the exhaustion and the constant anxiety about money. Emma finished her section and moved toward the designer dress department, the most exclusive area of the store. This was where dresses started at $5,000 and went up to numbers that made her dizzy. She was dusting the displays when she heard voices. The store wasn't supposed to open for another 90 minutes, but sometimes VIP clients got private shopping appointments before hours. Emma tried to make herself invisible, a skill she'd perfected over 3 years of cleaning other people's spaces. A man walked in, and even from across the room, Emma could feel his presence. He was tall, probably in his late 30s, with dark hair styled perfectly and a suit that looked like it cost more than her car. His jaw was sharp, his movements controlled and deliberate. Everything about him screamed money and power. Behind him trailed a woman in her mid-20s, blonde and beautiful in that effortless way that came from personal trainers and expensive salons. She wore designer jeans and a silk blouse, her perfectly manicured hand resting possessively on the man's arm. The store manager, Mr. Harrison, appeared from nowhere, practically bowing as he approached them. "Good morning, Mr. Valenti. Miss Chin. We have several new arrivals I think you'll love." Valenti. Emma had heard that name before. Everyone in Chicago had. The Valenti family owned half the city's real estate, several restaurants, and rumor had it, they had connections to things that didn't appear in newspaper business sections. Emma kept cleaning, trying to stay out of the way, but the dress section wasn't large. She found herself near them as the blonde woman, Madison, pulled dress after dress from the racks with increasing frustration. "This is too plain. This color washes me out. This cut is unflattering." The man, Marcus Valenti, checked his watch with barely concealed impatience. "Madison, we've been here 20 minutes. Just pick something for the gala." "I'm trying, Marcus, but nothing here is special enough. This is the Valenti Foundation Gala. I need to look perfect standing next to you." Emma accidentally bumped her cart against a display, and Madison's head snapped toward her. The blonde's eyes traveled over Emma's uniform with obvious disdain. "Excuse me," Madison said sharply, clapping her hands like Emma was a dog. "You're in the way. Can you clean somewhere else?" Emma felt her face flush. "I'm almost done with this section, ma'am." "Well, hurry up. Your cart is blocking the mirror." Emma moved quickly, but as she passed by the dress rack, her cart caught on something. A dress tumbled off its hanger, a stunning crimson gown with delicate beading that caught the light like fire. She bent to pick it up, and for just a moment, she held it against herself, seeing her reflection in the mirror. The color transformed her. Against the deep red, her olive skin glowed, her dark eyes looked luminous. For a split second, she wasn't a tired single mother in a janitor's uniform. She was someone else entirely. Madison's laugh cut through the moment like glass breaking. "Oh my God, Marcus, look. The cleaning lady is trying on the merchandise." That dress costs $12,000. Like she could ever afford it. Emma's hands trembled as she quickly hung the dress back up. I wasn't trying it on. I was just... Marcus Valenti turned, and his eyes met Emma's for the first time. Something flickered across his face, too quick to read. Then his mouth curved into a cold smile. Buy that dress, and I'll marry you, he said, his tone dripping with mockery. His words hung in the air like a challenge, like a joke at her expense. Madison erupted into laughter, delighted. Oh, Marcus, you're terrible. But Emma saw something else in his eyes. Something darker. Test, maybe, or judgment. Either way, the message was clear. Know your place. Emma's face burned with humiliation. She grabbed her cart and walked away as quickly as she could, their laughter following her down the aisle. Her hands shook so badly she had to stop in the storage room, pressing her back against the cold wall, trying not to cry. She couldn't afford to cry. Not here. Not now. Not when Lily was sick at home and the rent was due in 5 days and she was still $200 short. Emma took a deep breath, wiped her eyes, and went back to work, because that's what people like her did. They survived. Emma couldn't shake the humiliation. For the rest of her shift, Marcus Valenti's mocking words echoed in her head. Buy that dress and I'll marry you. As if marriage to someone like him was the ultimate prize. As if someone like her could never deserve nice things. She finished her work at 1:30 p.m. and practically ran to the employee exit. The November wind cut through her thin jacket as she waited for the bus. 45 minutes later, she finally made it back to her apartment in Pilsen, a neighborhood far from the gleaming towers of downtown. Mrs. Chun met her at the door, concern etched on her elderly face. She's been sleeping most of the day. Fever went down a little with the medicine. Thank you so much, Mrs. Chun. Emma pressed two $20 bills into the woman's hand. Money she couldn't spare but couldn't not give. Inside the small apartment, Lily was curled up on the worn couch, her favorite blanket tucked under her chin. At 7 years old, she looked so small and fragile. Emma's heart cracked as she sat beside her daughter and felt her forehead. Mommy, Lily whispered, her voice hoarse. You came home. Of course I did, baby. I'll always come home to you. That night, after Lily had eaten some soup and fallen back asleep, Emma sat at her tiny kitchen table with a calculator and a pile of bills. The math didn't work no matter how many times she tried. Rent, $1,400. Utilities, $230. Lily's after-school care, $300. Groceries, gas, her phone bill, Lily's medicines. Her paycheck from Nordstrom was $1,100 every 2 weeks. She also cleaned offices 3 nights a week for an extra $600 a month. It still wasn't enough. Emma's eyes drifted to the eviction notice tucked under a coffee mug. Final warning. She had 7 days. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but desperation made her pick up. Emma Torres? A smooth male voice asked. Yes? This is James Chun from Valenti Properties. We own your building. I'm calling regarding your overdue rent. Emma's stomach dropped. I know I'm behind. I'm working on it. I just need a few more days. Ms. Torres, you've been saying that for 2 months. Mr. Valenti has instructed me to inform you that if payment isn't received in full by Friday, eviction proceedings will begin Monday morning. Mr. Valenti? Emma's voice cracked. Marcus Valenti? Yes. He personally reviews all delinquent accounts. He was quite clear about the timeline. The line went dead. Emma stared at her phone in disbelief. The same man who had humiliated her that morning owned her building. The same man who had mocked her for even touching that dress was about to put her and Lily on the street. The next morning, Lily's fever was worse. Emma had no choice but to call in sick to Nordstrom. Mr. Harrison's voice was ice cold on the phone. That's strike 3, Emma. Don't bother coming back. Your final check will be mailed. Emma sat on the bathroom floor after hanging up, her hand pressed against her mouth to keep from screaming. She'd just lost her main income. She had $400 in her checking account and $700 in savings she'd been desperately protecting for emergencies. This was the emergency. By Wednesday, Emma had applied to 15 jobs online. By Thursday, she'd heard back from 3, all rejections. Friday morning arrived like a death sentence. She had no rent money, no job, a sick daughter who needed to see a doctor, but Emma couldn't afford the copay. She was out of options. That afternoon, Emma did something she'd never done before. She put on her only nice outfit, a simple black dress she'd worn to her mother's funeral 3 years ago, and took the bus downtown. She walked into the Valenti Properties building, a gleaming tower on Wacker Drive, and asked to see Marcus Valenti. The receptionist looked at her like she'd asked to see the Pope. "Do you have an appointment?" "No, but it's urgent. It's about one of his properties. Mr. Valenti doesn't take walk-ins. You can leave a message with the property management department on the 3rd floor." Emma swallowed her pride. "Please, I just need 5 minutes. I'm about to be evicted from one of his buildings, and I have a 7-year-old daughter. I just need to explain my situation." The receptionist's expression didn't change. 3rd floor, property management. Emma rode the elevator down feeling defeated, but she wasn't ready to give up. She spent 2 hours being shuffled between departments, each person more indifferent than the last. Finally, a manager told her plainly, "Mr. Valenti's policy is clear. No exceptions. You have until 5 p.m. today to pay or vacate by Monday." As Emma left the building, she saw him, Marcus Valenti, stepping out of a black SUV right in front of the entrance. He was on his phone, laughing about something, completely unaware of her existence. Something inside Emma snapped. She walked straight up to him. "Mr. Valenti." He looked at her, no recognition in his eyes. "I'm Emma Torres. You're evicting me and my daughter. I work 2 jobs. I've never missed rent until my daughter got sick and I lost hours at work. I just need 2 more weeks. Please." Marcus's eyes were cold, empty. "Lady, I own 3,000 residential units in this city. You think I know every tenant's sob story? Pay your rent or leave. Those are your options." He walked past her like she was invisible. Emma stood there on the sidewalk, people streaming around her, feeling more alone than she'd ever felt in her life. She had nothing left. No job, no home, no hope. She walked to the bus stop in a daze. As she waited, a black Mercedes pulled up beside her. The window rolled down and a man leaned out. Not Marcus Valenti. Someone else. Older, with silver hair and a scar across his left eyebrow. His suit was even more expensive than Marcus's, and his eyes were sharp, calculating. "Emma Torres," he said. It wasn't a question. She took a step back. "Who are you?" "Someone who might be able to help you. Get in. We need to talk." Emma's survival instincts screamed at her not to get into a stranger's car, but desperation had a way of drowning out common sense. The man's eyes held something Marcus Valenti's didn't. Recognition of her humanity. "I don't know you," Emma said, her voice shaking. "My name is Vincent Romano. I know you're in trouble, and I know Marcus Valenti just turned you away. I also know you have a daughter named Lily who's been running a fever for 3 days, and you just lost your job at Nordstrom." Emma's blood ran cold. "How do you know all that?" Vincent smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Because I make it my business to know things, especially about Marcus Valenti and the people he steps on. Now, you can stand here in the cold and figure out where you and your daughter are going to sleep Monday night, or you can get in this car and hear what I have to say. Your choice." Emma looked down the street, at the bus that would take her back to her apartment, to Lily, to her impossible situation. Then she looked at Vincent Romano's extended hand. She got in the car. The interior smelled like leather and expensive cologne. Vincent poured her a glass of water from a crystal decanter. "Drink. You look like you haven't eaten today." He was right. Emma hadn't. As the car pulled into traffic, Vincent sat back and studied her. "I've been watching Marcus Valenti for a long time. He's arrogant, ruthless, and he thinks he's untouchable because his last name opens every door in this city. But men like him always have blind spots." "What does this have to do with me?" Emma asked. Vincent pulled out a tablet and showed her a photo. It was from that morning at Nordstrom. Someone had captured the moment Emma held the red dress, the look on her face in the mirror. Next to it was a photo of Marcus staring at her with an expression Emma hadn't noticed at the time. It wasn't mockery. It was something else. Interest, maybe, or recognition. When Marcus made that cruel joke about marrying you if you bought the dress, he was trying to humiliate you. What he didn't realize is that he'd just given you the key to destroying him. Emma shook her head. I don't understand. Vincent leaned forward. The Valenti Foundation Gala is tomorrow night. It's the biggest social event of the season. Marcus will be there with Madison Chun, playing the perfect couple for all of Chicago's elite. His family is pushing him to settle down, get married, produce heirs. It's good for business, good for their public image. Okay, but what if you showed up to that gala wearing that $12,000 dress? Vincent's smile was sharp as a knife. What if you walked in there and reminded Marcus Valenti of exactly what he said in front of witnesses? Emma laughed, a bitter sound. That's insane. I can't afford that dress. I can't even afford my rent. Vincent pulled out a black credit card and placed it in her hand. Consider it a loan. Buy the dress. Get your hair done. Show up at that gala and make Marcus Valenti face his own words. Buy that dress and I'll marry you. He said it. You bought it. Now he has to own it. Why would you do this? Emma asked. What do you want from me? Vincent's expression hardened. The Valenti family has been squeezing my businesses out of Chicago for years. They use their political connections, their money, their reputation to crush anyone who challenges them. I want to embarrass Marcus. I want to show all of Chicago that the great Marcus Valenti is just another hypocrite. And you're going to help me do it. Emma looked at the credit card in her trembling hand. This is crazy. Maybe. But you're out of options, Emma. And I'm offering you a way to fight back against the man who's taking everything from you. Vincent's voice softened slightly. I'll also pay your rent through the end of the year. No strings attached. Whether you go to that gala or not, you and Lily will have a roof over your heads. Emma felt tears sting her eyes. Why? Why would you help me? Because I know what it's like to be invisible to men like Marcus Valenti. And because sometimes the most powerful weapon isn't money or connections. It's a woman who has nothing left to lose. The car stopped in front of Emma's apartment building. Vincent handed her a business card along with the credit card. The gala is tomorrow at 7 p.m. at the Drake Hotel. If you decide to go, call me. I'll make sure you get in. If you don't, keep the rent money anyway. Either way, you deserve better than what Marcus Valenti thinks of you. Emma got out of the car in a daze, clutching the cards in her hand. That night, after Lily finally fell asleep, Emma sat on her bed staring at the black credit card. Felt dangerous. Felt like power. Felt like a chance. She thought about Marcus Valenti's cold eyes, his mocking smile, the way he'd walked past her on the street like she was nothing. Buy that dress and I'll marry you. Emma picked up her phone and called Vincent Romano. I'll do it, she said. On the other end of the line, Vincent laughed. Good. Let's show Chicago what happens when you underestimate the wrong woman. If you're rooting for Emma and want to see what happens when she shows up at that gala, hit that subscribe button. This story is about to take a turn nobody saw coming, and trust me, you won't want to miss what Marcus Valenti does when Emma walks through those doors. The next morning, Emma woke up with her heart pounding. She'd barely slept, replaying her conversation with Vincent Romano over and over. Part of her still couldn't believe what she was about to do. Mrs. Chun agreed to watch Lily for the evening. Emma told her daughter she had a special work event, which wasn't entirely a lie. Lily's fever had finally broken, and seeing her baby smile again gave Emma the courage she needed. At noon, Vincent sent a car to take Emma to Nordstrom. Walking back into that store felt surreal. This time, she wasn't pushing a cleaning cart. This time, she had Vincent's black card in her purse and a mission. The same sales associate who'd ignored her before suddenly materialized when Emma asked for the red dress. The woman's eyes widened when Emma handed over the credit card without flinching at the $12,000 price tag. An excellent choice, the associate gushed, suddenly all smiles. Next came a salon on Oak Street where celebrities got ready for red carpets. Emma had never been anywhere like it. They washed her hair with products that smelled like heaven, trimmed and styled it into soft waves that made her look like someone from a movie. A makeup artist worked magic on her face, emphasizing her dark eyes and high cheekbones. When Emma finally looked in the mirror, she didn't recognize herself. The exhausted single mother was gone. In her place stood a woman who looked like she belonged in that red dress, like she belonged anywhere she wanted to be. Vincent called at 6 p.m. The car will pick you up at 6:30. Remember, you're not crashing this party. You're accepting an invitation. Marcus Valenti extended himself. Hold your head high. Emma's hands shook as she put on the dress. It fit perfectly, hugging her curves, the crimson fabric making her skin glow. She slipped into the designer heels Vincent had also provided, grabbed the small clutch, and took a deep breath. The Drake Hotel was lit up like a palace. Emma's car pulled up behind a Rolls-Royce, and a valet opened her door. As she stepped out, she saw other guests turning to look. Not with mockery, but with curiosity and admiration. Inside, the ballroom was breathtaking. Crystal chandeliers, ice sculptures, champagne towers, and Chicago's wealthiest citizens mingling in designer gowns and custom tuxedos. Emma felt like she'd stepped into another world. She spotted Marcus immediately. He stood near the center of the room with Madison clinging to his arm. Madison wore a white dress covered in diamonds, but somehow it looked overdone, trying too hard. Marcus was in a tailored tuxedo, playing the perfect host, shaking hands and smiling that cold, calculated smile. Emma's heart hammered, but she forced herself to walk forward. Heads turned as she moved through the crowd. She heard whispers. Who is she? I've never seen her before. That dress is stunning. Marcus was mid-conversation with a city alderman when he saw her. Emma watched the color drain from his face. His eyes went wide with shock, then narrowed with something that looked like anger mixed with disbelief. Madison noticed his expression and turned to see what he was staring at. Her mouth fell open. Emma walked right up to them, her head high, her voice steady despite her racing pulse. Mr. Valenti, she said, her tone polite but clear. I bought the dress, as you requested. The small group around them went silent. Marcus's jaw clenched. Emma could see the calculation happening behind his eyes, trying to figure out who she was, how she could afford that dress, why she was here. Madison recovered first, her voice sharp. Excuse me, who are you? This is a private event. Emma smiled, never taking her eyes off Marcus. I'm Emma Torres. Mr. Valenti and I met earlier this week. He made me a very specific promise. He said, and I quote, buy that dress and I'll marry you. Well, here I am. I bought the dress. The people around them gasped. Someone laughed nervously. Marcus's face turned red, a vein pulsing in his temple. Madison turned on him. Marcus, what is she talking about? But before Marcus could respond, an older man approached. He was in his 60s, distinguished with the same sharp features as Marcus. Antonio Valenti, Marcus's father and head of the Valenti Empire. Marcus, his father said quietly, his Italian accent still present after decades in America. Who is this young woman, and why is she saying you proposed marriage? Marcus looked trapped. Emma could see him searching for an escape, a way to dismiss her. But they were surrounded by witnesses, by reporters with cameras, by everyone who mattered in Chicago society. It was a joke, Marcus said through gritted teeth. A misunderstanding. Emma pulled out her phone. She'd been recording their conversation at Nordstrom, something she hadn't even realized until Vincent's people had enhanced the audio. She played it now, loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. Marcus's voice came through clearly. Buy that dress and I'll marry you. The crowd erupted in shocked murmurs. Antonio Valenti's expression darkened. Madison looked like she might faint. A man doesn't joke about marriage in front of witnesses, Antonio said coldly, staring at his son. Not a Valenti. We built our reputation on keeping our word. Father, this is ridiculous. She's nobody. She's... Careful. Emma interrupted, her voice like steel. Choose your next words very carefully, Mr. Valenti, because right now, every phone in this room is recording, and I promise you, the story of how Marcus Valenti welched on a promise to a single mother will be on every news site by morning. Marcus stared at her with pure hatred, but also something else. Respect, maybe, or fear. He'd underestimated her, and now he was paying the price. The ballroom felt like it was holding its breath. Antonio Valenti studied Emma with sharp, calculating eyes, the same eyes his son had, but with decades more wisdom behind them. "Miss Torres," Antonio said, his voice measured. "Perhaps we should discuss this matter privately. My office is upstairs." It wasn't a request. Marcus looked like he wanted to argue, but one glance from his father silenced him. Madison started to follow, but Antonio held up a hand. "Family only. And Miss Torres." Emma's confidence wavered for a moment, but she thought of Lily at home, of the eviction notice, of every time someone had made her feel invisible. She nodded and followed Antonio Valenti toward the elevators, Marcus trailing behind them like a storm about to break. The office was all dark wood and leather, with a view of Lake Michigan that probably cost more than Emma would make in a lifetime. Antonio poured himself a whiskey and offered Emma one. She declined. She needed to stay sharp. Marcus paced like a caged animal. "This is extortion," he spat. "She's trying to trap me into marriage because I made an offhand comment." "Offhand?" Emma's voice was calm but firm. "You humiliated me in front of your girlfriend and the store manager. You mocked me for daring to even touch something beautiful because I was wearing a janitor's uniform. And then, when I came to you begging for 2 more weeks to pay rent on an apartment you own, you looked through me like I was invisible." Marcus's eyes flashed. "So this is revenge? You want to destroy my reputation because your feelings got hurt? I want you to understand that people like me are human beings. We're not props in your life. We're not punchlines to your jokes." Antonio held up his hand for silence. He studied Emma for a long moment. "You work 2 jobs?" "I did," Emma said quietly, "until I lost one because my daughter was sick and I had to stay home with her." "How old is your daughter?" 7. Antonio nodded slowly, then turned to his son. "Marcus, you told this woman you would marry her if she bought that dress. In front of witnesses. And now she has bought it. Father, you can't be serious." "I am completely serious." Antonio's voice was ice. "Do you know why the Valenti name means something in this city? Because for 4 generations we have kept our word. In business, in politics, in our personal lives. A Valenti promise is sacred." "This wasn't a promise," Marcus protested. "It was sarcasm. It was witnessed and recorded." Antonio turned back to Emma. "Miss Torres, I apologize for my son's behavior. It was beneath him and beneath our family name." Emma hadn't expected an apology. Caught her off guard, softening something in her chest. "However," Antonio continued, "I also recognize that forced marriage benefits no one. So I propose a solution. Marcus will honor his commitment, but not in the way anyone expects." Both Emma and Marcus stared at him. "Miss Torres will become Marcus's fiancée for 1 year. They will appear together at public events, maintain the appearance of a genuine relationship, and at the end of that year they will quietly separate. In exchange, Miss Torres will receive a settlement of $5 million, a position in one of our companies with a fair salary, and her housing will be provided for the duration of the arrangement and beyond." Emma's mind reeled. $5 million. That was generational wealth. That was Lily's college education, medical care, a real future. "And if I refuse?" Emma asked. "Then we will bury you in legal fees and destroy any credibility you have," Antonio said bluntly. "But I don't think you'll refuse. You're a smart woman. You know an opportunity when you see one." "This is insane," Marcus said, but his voice had lost its edge. He knew his father had already decided. Antonio ignored him. "Miss Torres, I need an answer." Emma thought about Lily, about the eviction notice, about every night she'd gone to bed wondering how she'd survive, about Marcus's cold eyes on the street when she'd begged for mercy. She thought about Vincent Romano and whatever game he was playing. This wasn't what he'd planned, but maybe it was better. "I have conditions," Emma said. Both Valenti men looked surprised. "My daughter comes first. Always. Any public appearances have to work around her schedule. I want my own apartment, separate from Marcus. And I want a job I'm actually qualified for, not some made-up position where I sit in an office doing nothing. I want to work, to contribute something real." Antonio smiled for the first time. Smart and principled. "Marcus, you could learn something from her. Do we have an agreement, Miss Torres?" Emma took a deep breath. 1 year. Then I walk away with the settlement. No strings attached? No strings attached. Emma extended her hand. Deal. Antonio shook it firmly. Marcus stood frozen, looking like his entire world had just tilted sideways. Welcome to the family, Miss Torres, Antonio said. Now, shall we return to the party and announce the happy news? As they walked back to the ballroom, Marcus grabbed Emma's arm. Don't think you've won, he hissed. This is temporary. In 1 year, you'll be gone, and I'll forget you ever existed. Emma pulled her arm free and looked him straight in the eye. Maybe. Or maybe you'll realize that the people you step on are the ones who can teach you what it actually means to be human. When they walked back into the ballroom together, Antonio made the announcement himself. Marcus Valenti and Emma Torres were engaged. The crowd erupted in applause, cameras flashed, and Madison Chun stormed out in tears. Emma stood there in her red dress, Marcus's hand stiffly holding hers, and felt the strangest sensation. Not victory exactly, but possibility. The story wasn't over. It was just beginning. 18 months later, Emma stood in the kitchen of her brownstone in Lincoln Park, sunlight streaming through the windows as she packed Lily's lunch. The apartment Antonio had provided had turned into a home, filled with Lily's artwork on the walls and the smell of fresh coffee in the mornings. Lily, now 8.5, sat at the kitchen table working on her homework, her fever and sickness long forgotten. She looked healthy, happy, with new glasses that she'd picked out herself and clothes that actually fit. Mom, can Marcus come to my school play next week? Lily asked without looking up from her math problems. Emma smiled. You'll have to ask him yourself when he gets here. Met out in tears. Emma stood there in her red dress, Marcus's hand stiffly holding hers, and felt the strangest sensation. Not victory exactly, but possibility. The story wasn't over. It was just beginning. The past year had been nothing like Emma expected. The arrangement was supposed to be simple. Appear together at events, play the happy couple, then walk away. But life had other plans. At first, Marcus had been cold, resentful, treating their agreement like a business transaction. He'd show up for the required appearances, smile for the cameras, then disappear back to his own life. Emma had been fine with that. She'd started working in the community outreach division of Valenti Properties, a position Antonio had created that turned out to be exactly what Emma was good at. Connecting with tenants, understanding their struggles, finding solutions that actually helped people instead of just evicting them. She'd implemented new policies, payment plans for struggling families, partnerships with local job training programs. The division became so successful that Antonio expanded it citywide. But somewhere around month 4, things shifted. Marcus started actually talking to her at events instead of just standing next to her. He asked about her work. He met Lily, awkwardly at first, not knowing how to interact with a 7-year-old. But Lily had a way of breaking through walls, and slowly, Marcus started showing up even when it wasn't required. He came to Lily's birthday party. He helped Emma move into a bigger apartment when Antonio offered it. He sat with them at a park one Sunday, looking uncomfortable on a bench while Lily played, and Emma asked him why he was really there. I don't know, he'd admitted. This was supposed to be fake. But it's starting to feel real, and that terrifies me. Emma understood. Terrified her too. The doorbell rang, pulling Emma from her thoughts. Lily jumped up. That's Marcus. I'll get it. She ran to the door and threw it open. Marcus stood there in jeans and a sweater, far from the suits he used to wear constantly. He'd changed too over the past year. Softer somehow. More human. Hey kiddo, he said, ruffling Lily's hair. Ready for our Saturday morning tradition? Every Saturday for the past 6 months, Marcus had been taking Lily to breakfast and then to the Art Institute. It had started as a way to give Emma a morning to herself, but it had become something Marcus looked forward to more than most of his business meetings. After they left, Emma sat down with her coffee and opened her laptop. She'd been working on something for weeks now, something she hadn't told anyone about yet. A foundation of her own, focused on helping single parents avoid the situations she'd been in: emergency rent assistance, childcare support, job training. Vincent Romano had called her a few months ago, curious about how his plan had turned out. I wanted to embarrass Marcus Valenti, he'd said. Instead, It looks like you reformed him. Emma had laughed. I don't think anyone reforms anyone else. But maybe people can choose to be better when someone gives them a reason to try. The contract had ended 2 months ago. Emma's year was up. She'd received her settlement. Her $5 million sitting in an account she still couldn't quite believe was real. She could have walked away. She'd chosen to stay. Not because of the money. Not because Antonio Valenti expected it. But because somewhere in the chaos of a fake engagement, she'd found something real. Marcus had found it too, though it took him another month after the contract ended to actually say it out loud. I love you, he told her one night after Lily had gone to sleep. Not because of some arrangement or obligation, but because you made me see the world differently. You made me want to be better. Emma hadn't said it back right away. She'd needed to be sure it wasn't gratitude or comfort or fear of being alone. But when she finally did say it, she meant it completely. 3 hours later, Marcus and Lily came home laughing about something that had happened at the museum. Lily ran to show Emma a postcard she'd gotten, and Marcus kissed Emma's cheek. A gesture so natural now that neither of them thought about it. That evening, after Lily was asleep, Marcus and Emma sat on the couch, her feet in his lap, talking about their days. He told her about a new housing project he was redesigning to include affordable units. She told him about her foundation plans. Do you ever think about that night at the gala? Marcus asked quietly. Sometimes. Do you? All the time. He looked at her seriously. I was so angry that night. Angry that you'd exposed me. Embarrassed me. Forced me to face what I'd become. But you saved me, Emma, from turning into my worst self. Emma smiled. You saved me too. From thinking I deserved less than everything. Outside, Chicago glittered with lights. The same city where Emma had once cleaned floors and counted pennies. Where she'd been invisible and desperate. Now she was building something that mattered. Not because a billionaire had mocked her into it, but because she'd had the courage to demand respect and the wisdom to recognize love when it finally showed up. Marcus pulled her closer. So, about that marriage proposal. The real one this time, not the sarcastic one. Emma laughed. Are you seriously proposing right now? He pulled out a small velvet box. I've been carrying this around for 3 weeks, waiting for the perfect moment. But I realized there's no perfect moment. There's just us here now choosing each other. So, Emma Torres, will you actually marry me? For real this time? Emma looked at the ring, simple and beautiful. Then at Marcus's face, hopeful and nervous and completely genuine. Yes, she said, but only if you promise to keep showing up. Not because a contract says so, but because you want to. Promise. Every single day. They kissed as the city sparkled beyond the windows. Two people who'd started as enemies and became each other's home.